we'll get. I'll work on an intro, and then we get an intro. Ni, 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 ni,
Kabisa.
all the razzmatazz.
Kabisa. So it's another free flow Saturday episode number.
32.
Wow.
We were away for like last weekend. We didn't get to catch up.
Last weekend we fell
A number of
victim
factors.
to the KPLC punitics.
Man,
For me it was a 24-hour blackout.
blackout. So this affected a large chunk of the country.
Very huge chunk of the country went under.
I mean, this
Then
level
we
of
had then we had
inefficiency.
another one yesterday
Hmm.
from 7 p.m.
Hmm.
till today noon, 12. My friend.
Last night I came. There was some heavy rains in Kigali yesterday. It's we've now literally crossed over
Mm,
to the rainy season. We've been in summer all through from I think must
mm,
have been late May or early June. Let's say from early June. So we've been
uh-huh,
enjoying sun and it's been great. So yesterday there was a downpour. It rained cats and dogs, literally. So
na stima ilipotea.
no, power was running all through. So the funny thing was when I got home, I found there was no
Mm,
power. So as I was
mm,
coming in, as I was getting closer, because I
mm,
live close to the airport. Of course,
mm,
airport is always covered. Unaona kuna
mm,
lights airport, but
mm,
you can see the whole neighborhood is dark.
mm,
So I
mm,
got in, again, the rain had totally messed me up. Nilikuja tu hivi, I just warmed my food, ate, I was headed
mm.
to the bed, but in a few minutes, power was back on. I mean, here it's
Right.
rare to have those long. If
Mm,
if if there's a, I mean, I think the longest probably we've had is maybe 3 4 hours. And then there's a big problem somewhere. They're probably working on some lines. Something had
mm,
happened.
mm.
I mean, Kenya at this level of growth where you'd have 24-hour, and this other one was almost what? It was almost more than 12 hours of power blackout. I mean, how can you run a country like that?
This
How can
one,
we
this one,
say we are moving into middle class income, middle class economy with this level of inefficiency? I mean, this is totally unacceptable.
I was just lucky that
Totally unacceptable.
I'd just cleared my quota of duties since morning. So the power went off at 7 and I'd done quite a chunk of work since early
Okay.
morning.
Hmm.
I wanted to push some extra duties, but I could not, but I was glad for what I did.
Yeah.
So you see, you can't even plan anything. This thing is like
Exactly.
thunder. It can strike anytime. Boop, gone.
There was no notification. I mean, sometimes at least they give you when they publish those
Notification.
outages. Yes,
Yes.
those
So this
outages in
one
the
just
in the in the
it was, in fact, it was 7 in the it was it the first one went off at 6 p.m., then came back after half an hour, then after that it was till morning. So man, shukran sana Sharif Mustafa, karibu sana. We
Welcome,
fell
Sharif
victim
Mustafa.
to the KPLC punitics. So
So
man,
tell me, what was the cause of this
nobody, they just said
outage?
system upset, an upset to the system, and
Did
I
did
don't.
it get to a point that the president made a comment of it in one of his
The
pronouncements?
the guy in charge of what happened is somebody called Murkomen went and fired the MD of Kenya Airports Authority. He was fired for not ensuring that the Nairobi JKIA generator did not peak on time. So there was darkness in the airport for half an hour. So that is the guy who got fired. So I'm wondering,
And Kenya Power.
nothing KPLC guys remains, but the airport gets fired because the generator did not peak automatically in half an hour. I was like, uh, see, that you should do it in terms of a discussion within the Kenya Airports Authority technical team to ensure that everything is that can be sorted by a meeting. So when you fire someone because generator did not peak in 30 minutes, I really, hiyo kidogo imenipiga chenga. I didn't get, maybe they know more than me. Sometimes I just say my mental faculties are limited. I don't want to crash my RAM thinking of some weird decisions. So, and
I'm
if I was in their position, I would sit down with the KPLC people and tell them, okay, last year, how many long haul blackouts did you have? These are the number of long haul blackouts. What caused it? These are the causes. What are we
yes,
doing to prevent it? So, can we
yes,
have that? These, let's say, the year 2023, there should be zero long haul black because you guys have been here for long. You tell these are the causative agents of these extensive blackouts. I'm sure they'll give you a reason. Good. Now, what should I do as the CS to facilitate you not having these blackouts? Good. If the government can provide resources to facilitate this, then it's done. But if they tell you we need this, and this, so that we can have one full year with zero long term blackouts, then we can. Then after long term, let's go to midterm. That one that lasts for like 10 hours. We've gone for 24. We go to 10. Okay, 10 hours. How do we prevent this? It's something we can sit down, then we pole. But when I don't know what meetings they have there, because there was a time I was across the border, and that
hmm
was the first time I sat in a very high level meeting in some
hmm
organization, and I nearly laughed.
hmm
I was in the presence of the general manager, lab manager, and an external consultant, big wigs of the company. And the discussion was crazy. I was just like, night a high level meeting. Fortunately, I was there as an external consultant
hmm
for some system. I simply said, okay, guys, let's do this. Let's focus on the report because it was a finger pointing meeting. I was looking, you people are supposed to be the senior people. So I'm trying to say, what do those people at these big parastatals discuss about? Like, do they say, okay, let's work on 2023, we minimize the extent of blackouts. Things like national-wide blackouts, we have to find out the cause and nip it in the bud. Because I'm made to understand during the latest one, there was a
hmm
hospital where people died. There were
because the
infants died in an incubator.
incubator.
Yeah.
Can you
Now,
imagine?
now you go back to the hospital
And that
also.
hospital
This
didn't
also
have
doesn't have
backup.
a generator.
Yeah.
So the system is so wrong in so many ways. It's like a network of tuniness. Hii iko wrong. Ukitengeneza hii, you repair this one has gone wrong. You try to repair this, you are done with it. This one has also fired up its own weird stuff.
I like
So I
that
was
one.
like,
It's a network of puniness.
yeah, some guy said three kids died in an incubator. It's like, uh, you, this hospital doesn't have a generator or something. And these are the same people when you see them in meetings, when you see those motorcades of vehicles, big cars, you're like, yeah, and Wazito. But man, it's unbelievable.
Let me even remove that. And I think I meant to say, yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm still
How?
trying to crack my mind that yes, it happened. We can't turn that back. It happened.
Hmm.
I mean, how can such a level of incompetence, inefficiency happen to the scale that it happened, and it doesn't get a mention from the president? Because this
So,
is big. Because the president really sets sort of the tone of how stuff should run. But if for 24 hours the entire country had a total blackout, enough that it impacted the biggest airport in the region. I mean, the implications of this level of incompetence, uh, I mean, what does it show of us as a country? I mean, immediately the president should have summoned Kenya Power, everyone that has a stake to ensuring that that whole system uh, runs efficiently. There should have been an emergency meeting.
I think it's
Call
something to do with
whoever, wherever they are, call them. Let's have
it's
a call
something to
right
do
now. There's a problem,
with
and I need a report, and I need to know that this will never happen again. A similar problem of such scale of should never happen.
oh, see,
I
I
mean,
think it's something to do with how we run things. Like when you are dealing with the way these companies run, are there things like daily reports, monthly reports, incident
exactly.
reports,
Yeah.
preventive measures? I do, because
I mean,
if
even
the,
like the generator, I'm sure you must run certain test runs to now to
yeah,
ensure that
you have to do a test run, you have to switch off the power,
yes.
and so that you see response time. It's a it reminds me of some time back. I think it was in 2011 or 2010. I was in an organization that I would not want to mention. See, we are having a lot of problems with the power, so the generator was running longer. Now, when the generator runs longer, that means you're consuming the fuel more. So someone reached out to management, told them, listen, owing to these long generator runs, our diesel consumption per is generally higher this month, because there's a month where you have like one blackout of 10 minutes, that is okay. But when it is extensive, we said our consumption is high and we need to stock up on diesel. The guys just kept quiet. So a day came when someone called them and told them, you see, somebody had put a mark on the tank, told them, listen, you see this mark here? If the diesel level gets to this mark, that means
Mhm.
the generator will knock off, will conk out anytime. And those guys say, no, 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 don't worry. The moment it switches off, you tell us. I'm, like, I'm telling you this so that you buy, we refill this tank right now. You're telling me if it switches off, I call you. What type of thinking is that? Then the moment these guys were turning around to walk back to their office, the generator conks out.
So the engine knocked out. So I mean, it's sort of unrepairable now.
No, no, no. It's conking out now for a petrol engine. You just have
Mm,
to pour more petrol and it goes.
okay,
For
it's
a
like it
diesel
regulates.
engine, diesel is not volatile.
Okay,
Doesn't produce fumes.
yeah,
You have to manually pump. You have to remove air
okay.
from the lines. With the petrol is volatile. As you just start cranking, those fumes will fire up the vehicle. Diesel, there's nothing like that. You have to manually pump that liquid from the tank up to that to remove the airlock so that the
Mm,
system can fire up. Now, this is a generator that's running a big company. It's like the engine of a ship.
mm-hmm,
You can imagine that effort that went there into manually pumping that thing.
mm,
Yeah. So this is all. It was just an issue of managerial screw ups, and I think these are the same people that are being finding their way into big positions and blundering their way into these sensitive locations. And look at where we are. Look at where we are. It's a big stinking. It's a big stinking mess. Mm. In another country, somebody would be just tender his resignation. I
exactly.
remember.
Even they wouldn't wait. They won't
Mm,
wait to be told you're fired. Like even you go to a place like Japan, some of
mm.
them even end up killing
Committing
themselves.
suicide. They commit
Can you
suicide.
imagine? Because
They
they
call
they
it,
look
they
at
call it, the thing is called harakiri.
eh,
They commit harakiri. Japanese is a completely different society. It's like I was very very young, very young. This was in Germany,
mhm,
and at that time the economies of the country surrounding Germany had really improved. So there's a lot of trucks coming from outside Germany into Germany. So those trucks had caused some parts of the road to become worn out. Not
mhm,
potholes, just
mhm,
being worn out. And the guy in
mhm,
charge of roads was being put under pressure. He was always
mhm,
drinking a glass of water because they're asking him, wait, this is taxpayers' money.
mhm,
So the money that could have been used to maintain the road, where is it? And this is
mhm,
not a pothole, just a cracks on
mhm.
the road, either wear and tear. So it tells you the standards that we are operating under.
Yeah,
And I think we
it's
become,
that level of what do you call it? Mediocrity.
I think
Where
we've become used to it. And i- the thing is, I think if you live in a country, I know, but Mustafa can confirm, there are parts of the US where you need to have a car because the transport system is not so good. But
people are spread
when
out. Yeah.
you are talking of urban environment where people are now forced to struggle and strain and buy cars because the transport system is screwed up, tells you something is wrong somewhere. Some of these people, they say, I'm not even supposed to own a car. But
Yeah,
I've
what when you've got trains and buses and
hmm.
all manner of public transportation that
Yeah,
is,
but you put yourself under
easily
so much
available.
pressure because you know very well if you bought that matatu, you are either you are going to get pickpocketed, you are going to be roughed up, or somebody is going to tell you you'll be exposed such obscenities until your day gets completely ruined. That's like whenever I take the train from Athi River and I stop at the Nairobi Central Rail Station, you can just see the change of environment because after outside the railway station where you go to the Matatu stage, the environment is just completely different because the railway station is orderly, people are smart. When you
Right.
cross over,
You're in another universe.
noise, crazy stuff going on. Another one is, and the funniest thing I saw one day is there was like somebody has a vehicle that gotten blocked, and now they are trying to rush through. And this guy who's a number of one of the vehicle, they don't know, he forgot to take breakfast. He has a cup of tea in one hand, mandazi in another, and he's trying to usher people into the vehicle, and the vehicle is moving. It's like, "Sicha itakumagukia kuchome bwana. Why don't you just organize yourself?" So it really made me
And
thinking.
we take these things for granted, but
Hmm,
just imagine what happens over time. This culture then just seeps into us, and
hmm,
before we know it, I guess you become the anomaly now when you're requesting for higher standards. As we
hmm.
say, we are the crazy ones because somebody at KPLC is still enjoying his salary even after this level of incompetence that was displayed. This guy is just fine and nothing happened. We are back on, and there's no repercussions. And it
but
saddens me because I
hmm,
really am insisting on that point that the president should have commented on this at the very least, even if it is just for the face of it. But he should have made a statement or two about it. I don't know if he did, but if you're telling me one Kenya Power, I'm trying to pull up some information online. I think there was only one report that says that the malfunction was due to an unspecified. I mean, the
era.
issue was due to
Hmm.
unspecified network malfunction. I mean, what kind of a report is that? If you
You might
can't
as well keep
pinpoint
quiet.
exactly, I mean, you can't pinpoint exactly what was the problem. So that means this thing would definitely recur again. If somebody is not being held accountable to, at the very least, at the very least, give us a report of what was the cause of the issue, what did it take to repair it, and what have they done to ensure this does not recur again. If anything, we can be okay if we end up having another 24-hour blackout, but not of the same issue. But if it recurs again and it's the same problem again, and somebody still is earning a
It's like
salary,
what I
I
normally
mean,
say.
it's a level of incompetence, of mediocrity, of I don't know, that culture that we've that has become so part of us that
What I normally say, what I was saying is this: imagine this in place of the KPLC failure. Imagine this was an aeroplane in the air.
exactly.
Imagine if this was an aeroplane in the air. Imagine the disaster that could have occurred. Madness,
But
madness.
I mean, you could almost equate it to that, because if you're telling me there were some children that died
Yeah, there are kids who
because
died in
so number
incubators.
one, that hospital, whoever or rather manages the facilities, I mean, should be held accountable.
That
Why
one
did
should
they
be
not
that
have power
one should
backup?
be that one is only that the law protects fuel. That one should now be put in an oven and baked alive. How?
Should have a firing squad. I mean,
Uh,
this is
an
unacceptable.
incubator. In fact,
And
by now
children died.
we should be talking up. I don't know if it is there, but if I'm to think of something out of my head, it should be by me having incubators with inbuilt backup systems,
Yeah, yeah, that's
like a
true.
laptop that
It
can
has
keep
its
you
own.
pushing for
It's just a
hours.
battery that you're charging. Yeah,
Yes, incubators and other life support systems should have their inbuilt lithium systems within.
yeah, yeah.
So that in case you have an excuse of the generator, life support systems and incubators can run for like 4 or 5 hours as you sort out the generator. And if the
Exactly.
generator is tested, and generator should, I think we should have be having called a power blackout drill every day, whereby power is switched off and you see how long the generator and you note down response time. Simple as that. And is it so difficult? I'm not a PhD holder, but these are things that
No, these
anyone.
are normal standards. I mean, I remember
Uh,
we used to apply
mm,
the same protocols. When you talk of one power backup and then two
mm,
data
mm,
backups for
mm,
this for the data center or server room. I mean,
mm,
one is to test to ensure that if power happens to go off, you have your uninterrupt your UPSs checking
mm,
in, and then you've got your generators kicking in to test that. And then you conduct, as you say, those drills should be conducted every so often, and a report provided. When it comes to data backups, yes, it might be indicating you're running backups, but have you tested that backup to ensure in the event that you need to do a restore, it's running, and it has backed up the right amount of data? Because sometimes you might just be backing up. Oh yeah, we've been doing backups. It shows 100% complete, no errors. But come to test it. I mean, that's why you have test beds. I mean, that's why you set up test cycles now for this kind of stuff. You know, they are expected to fail at some point. But if you've now tested and run this, then you can apply any corrective measures in the event an actual event happens to occur. So it's a no-brainer. If
so
these
like
people
now,
are,
I was trying to
yeah,
ask myself,
that
do these
it's,
people sort of simulate like you could do like a war simulator? What
yeah,
happens like which
100%.
if this
You do
KPLC
those
NAB center
things.
is hit by a bomb? What do we switch to? I
Mm,
was very impressed by people in
100%.
the in Finland, the Finnish Air Force. I read somewhere
Mm-hmm.
They train their airport air, they, I think they fly F-18s. They train
Mm-hmm.
their pilots to land on highways. Why? They say that in the event of a war and the air bases are hit, so that there are no
Mm-hmm.
runway, and a pilot land on a highway. That's what they were doing. So there's a time they cut off very huge sanctions of the highway for a short while, so their pilots can do training on how to land and take off on a highway, so that a
Yeah,
highway can be converted into a base.
that's true. I mean,
That-
it reminds me of my days in South Sudan.
mm,
Literally, we used to land in on a sort of Maram road, and
mm,
it would be in the like a trading center.
mm,
So let's say we are coming to Kakamega, and Kakamega is just a small little commercial outpost with shops
mm,
on either
mm,
sides of the road. This is a road for
mm.
vehicles. So these guys would notify, I think they would have somebody on the ground, and people would be told there's a plane coming. And literally, this little uh, plane, would be like five or seven of us in that small
That
plane.
must be, I think
We
that
would
should be a
land.
Cessna Grand Caravan, I think.
Yes, these are typically Cessnas. We would literally land in a trading center, and it's not tarmac road. This was just Maram road,
Mara,
and sometimes even the driver, the
pilot.
pilot will say, "Yeah, the road is a bit terrible, particularly if it happens to rain."
Uh,
But this is some of the if you if you happen to operate in some of these war-torn countries, I mean, you see life in a whole new dimension, man.
so our preparedness, because things like when there's you come under attack uh, from hostiles, those are the places they are likely to hit. Is there a backup center you can switch directly from? Somebody may not hit the infrastructure, but somebody may interfere with the computer system. Yeah, so we really have a very long way to go. If that is what happened, then there's no major statement from the powers that be. It
Mm,
becomes, well, a bit of a situation. But on a brighter note, I can say that the Kenya railway commuter system is more efficient than the one in Germany. German commuter systems have been
mm,
mentioned as extremely late. They
mm.
say there's an issue with the infrastructure upgrade. They really delay.
Oh,
1 hour
really? Eh?
delay, 1.5 for some reason. So at least we can say trains, although they are slower, they are on time. They commute
No,
on the one.
and I've experienced it myself. I mean, I told you I used to use the
Mm,
train almost on a daily basis when I used to
mm,
live in Imaradaim. I mean, the train station
mm,
was literally a
mm.
6 minutes walk
In
from my
fact, the
house.
Maradaima one, that is the
Yeah,
one from Mati River.
that's the one from Atriva. And I mean, Atriva came online because they've added a number of stations along the way.
Yes.
And I think they were even talking of putting up one in Mlolongo. Now
No
to
longer is
South,
being built. It's being
it's
built.
being built as we speak. I tell you, that
Mm.
system, I would say
It works.
95% of the time, it
It
used to
works.
work. It
Mm. It
works
works.
on
It works.
time. That thing
Yes.
delivers like
Yes.
nothing. I
It
mean, it
arrives.
even and it has continually just improved. I mean, by the time I think when it was COVID 2020, that's
Mm,
when they were even now introducing the buses to now
mm.
be able to take you to your last mile if you
Last
happen to
mile. They are still
be in
there.
Westlands,
Those are
Yaya
Newton
Center,
commuters.
communities.
Eh,
Yes,
they are
I mean
there.
that yeah, I
Very,
think that
very
is
neat
it's a
buses.
bright star.
Very.
It's a
Eh,
bright star.
that
Even
one
and
works.
when
Mm.
it works like a charm. I mean,
Yeah.
that's definitely something we should
If
give
you look at if you go
high mark.
to the Athi River the train station during the day, and you see vehicles parked there. And before, the parking lot used to be full because that is where the train used to stop at. Now the train is extending to Lukenya, which is at the
Yes,
back of
I've seen the
Kitengela.
Luceno station.
And
Yeah.
so
Huh.
now whoever was leaving those vehicles, before vehicles used to park, people used to drive from Kitengela and park there. Now, whoever is driving, whoever is living in Kitengela, just go to Lukenya and do his thing. So but you'll still find quite a number of vehicles there. It's a big parking lot. So if people are driving and parking there, and it's a 1 hour trip on the point.
And,
Departure
and
arrival at the river train station is 6:17. Departure 6:20. Nairobi Central Station 7:20. 1 hour on the
yeah,
dot.
I mean,
Mm.
they've got a timetable. It's available.
Yes.
The only thing I was
Mm.
disappointed, they used to provide cards where you'd load up. I don't know if they're still back on, or you have to buy those little tickets that you have to dispose when you're
I
leaving. You know,
used
the
to
papers
see
with the card.
some time back. I used to see people when the
Mm.
conductor gets to them, he'll show them a card, punch in
No, I
some
used
number. I don't
at
know
the
if it's
time.
there. But, mm,
No, no. The Nairobi, what do they call it? Metropolitan. That team. What
but,
was it called?
NMS, NMS.
NMS.
Mm.
Actually, it was a little before NMS came in when now
But I used to
Sonko.
see, I don't know, maybe I don't notice a lot, but I used to
Mm.
see somebody, when the conductor gets to them, he shows them a card, punches in some to confirm the card, and that's it.
You know, the card used to work
For
very well.
frequent
The
users,
card,
that
I
is.
mean, for me, that's how,
Mm.
I mean, if I'm operating on a budget, I know I'll load it up with 1,000. I'll
That is.
always use that for the
Mm,
month. And
mm,
you don't even need the conductor to do anything. What I'll
yeah.
do is when I'm checking in, I hit the card on the turnstiles, they
Mm.
open up, I go to I
Or
enter into
used
the
to for
station.
swiping. Okay,
You
okay.
swipe it. I mean, not really swiping, rather it's a reader. So it has
Okay,
that
okay.
near frequency kind of thing. So just place it
Okay.
on top of the reader.
Mm.
It will open the turnstile, and you now get in, and you get off wherever you're getting off. So it calculates based on that. So if I got in at Imara Daima, it knows if I'm getting off at the Central Railway Station,
Because you'll have
it's 50
to
bob or
use
30
it
bob.
there.
Yeah,
So
so
you
it
run it
knows. Yeah,
there.
I'll run it when I'm entering and exiting. So it knows how
Mhm.
to deduct depending on where I entered and how much that fare is. I mean, that system used to work very well. And they even had one for the people who would come in with their cars, they'll tap it, and then, those barriers would open, they would go in, park their car, then use the same now to go through the turnstiles. And then, I mean, that system was efficient. I used to like it. I mean, so I know they have done some good improvement, but I think they do need to bring back the card system. I think it's very good, and they can even put up those kiosks wherever, such that if I'm a new rider, I can
Mm.
come buy that card, and boom, it produces a card. I mean, in many other places, you have those kind of systems,
It
and
really
they
assists you with the
run
budgeting.
efficient.
Budgeting
I mean,
becomes very.
and budgeting and just the efficiency of getting through.
Mm,
If
mm.
you're using the whatever, the paper little thing, sometimes they are chasing for your change, and I don't know if they have introduced M-Pesa. So it used to
You can do
be,
M-Pesa nowadays. You can do
you can
M-Pesa.
do M-Pesa. Okay, so I think
They
that's
have
also
some sort of POS, point of sale, a mobile POS unit.
okay. I
It's like
mean,
a mobile
the
version. You remember that old KBS thing that
Kenya
goes.
Bash. Yeah,
Now
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
a digital one.
A digital version. Okay,
Yeah, now
okay,
you can
okay.
just
Yeah. I
you
mean, kudos
mention
to
you
the
just
people that run.
you give your phone number,
Yeah,
you punch us in, then you get a prompt
you get
at
a
your
prompt.
M-Pesa prompt that feed
Just
in your
enter your
money. And
PIN.
well, so for that one,
Yeah,
hey, we give the devil his due. They've performed very well.
I
The
mean,
only
those are
issue is
some of
that
the things.
there's
Mm.
never been an extra centimeter of MGR added anywhere in this country.
That meter gauge railway. But
They've
and
never.
and, and, and again, you see also that one of the things that I would credit to them is
Mm.
sort of learning to use what you have. Because these
Yes,
guys, you can say they have exploited, even if they're still using old infrastructure. And I even
it is
remember that
working
time
so well. You
before.
see, the good thing about
Yeah,
freight doesn't have to go fast.
yeah.
because you have the advantage of bulk. And I was very happy. There are some companies where I don't know if Mombasa they are doing it, but the Mombasa MGR line is undergoing rehabilitation, and I hope it will go to the some parts of the industrial area. There are companies where we have a line, a railway line, going into the compound. So in parts of Nairobi and
Yeah,
Central, there are
I saw
places
that.
where the line is going directly into the compound. So they'll
I mean,
dedicate some 2 or 3 bogies for you. You load it, then a small locomotive will come and tow it, join to the main line, and so deliveries is the same. So it's far better. You're not going to hear. In fact, there's a certain line that goes somewhere in Central. I forget its name. It's a very common one. Very, it's a bit slow, but the bulk that is being moved, even the fastest moving truck cannot compare to that one.
exactly.
Even
And the
you
thing
take the
is
mm,
predictability. I mean,
yes. Mm.
if people know, even if it was taking long but reliable, you see,
Reliability
like
and
even
bulk.
like and bulk,
The issue
yes,
is bulk.
that predictability and
Even as I
reliability is
said,
in place. That wins. That's a major
even if
win.
you pick the best, the fastest truck cannot measure to the bulk. This thing is moving at 40
Yeah,
kilometers per hour,
yeah,
but is
yeah,
bringing you the equivalent of 50 trucks. So
yeah.
it's all good, so good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, talking about that aspect where the railway line almost gets to
Mm,
the last mile. If you are to
mm,
take a quick aerial view of Nairobi and
mm,
scan the industrial area zone, you
mm.
can see there's literally railway line that
Yes,
gets into companies.
yes.
So, and that was the whole plan of it. That it's almost getting you the last mile aspect. We know rail is constrained to that degree, and there's probably very little that you can do. But if there are well-known industries that do a lot of bulk production, and you have to, either receive goods from Mombasa or send
Even
goods to the port.
in Mombasa, you go to an
Yeah,
area called Shimanzi.
yeah,
Shimanzi, there are railway lines all over.
yeah. Now
Shimanzi.
they are. I mean, probably people have now built on top of those railway lines, and but
Mm,
they were there. I mean, and I guess this is the level of organization the white man had. And imagine this was at the turn of the century. This is 1900s. I mean, when they were building out the local. But just imagine that level of organization and management that they were doing then.
yes.
Then
And that was
now we are in the
in
21st
80s
century.
and 90s because I remember passing there
Yeah.
using those areas in when I was in primary school, nursery 80, 89, 90. Those lines were there.
Were they
So
operational at that time in the 80s and
yes,
90s?
yes, they
Okay.
were there. And there's a place called Mbaraki Cement Wharf, is where that line used to pass outside. In fact, I think it used to pass outside where our apartment. I was actually walk. I could look through my bedroom window. I could actually see the cabin of the locomotive operator. Next, Kabisa, it used to go to collect what do I call this cement products from ships. Then there's another line that was going Paka Karibu to the road where this calcium used to be loaded on. There are bogies which are just parked there. The calcium would be loaded there. Then the small shunting locomotive can come and collect them. It was magnificent. It was working properly. But I don't know. I don't know why we allowed such. There
Yeah,
was even
literally.
a railway line going to the Mombasa industrial area that is around Coca-Cola and those. There were lines, common lines that used to connect warehouses.
Yeah,
I think they are called branch lines. In that warehouse region, there'll be a
exactly.
very long line passing there. Efficiency.
I, I mean, I bet they have now introduced those inland container, ports.
Yes.
And then part of it is this, I have one point where you can now dump them, and then now you do the
Mm,
clearing and forwarding in those locations, and then load them up
mm.
now to the trucks for that last mile element. Um, but anyway, looking at how we are, it seems we have actually sort of regressed instead
Thoroughly.
of developing, and it's a very sad state of affairs that
And it's
in this day
attitude
and
based, I
age,
think. Just attitude.
yeah, we having this level of inefficiency. These are things that we shouldn't even be thinking or talking about them. They should be way past. We should now be tackling other new problems, not this kind of. These were 1800s problems, not
We
20.
are. This should be something as normal as brushing your teeth in the morning. And here we are. We're discussing. Oh, you didn't brush your teeth. Oh, it's like a major company discussing lateness to work. How? So that's how it is. I don't know. These guys of the WorldCoin,
Hmm.
someone showed a picture
Hmm.
of the that GUI. It was saying no connection. I think the day when they are not supposed to pay, the link
Hmm.
went off. So your data is gone for free.
Hmm.
Hmm. So you're not getting, I don't think anyone has gotten that 7,000. And the
Really?
fact that someone can
I
go
thought they were being
into it,
paid right there. You go in, line up, they get
it
your
was supposed to be through
biometrics, and then
Bitcoin.
they pay you. Also, the payment wasn't really cash
It should be Bitcoin. And then, so
payments.
somebody showed a picture and said, what WorldCoin muko wapi? It was showing no link.
But you tell me, how could it attract those long lines? I mean, if people are being paid by via Bitcoin, yes, maybe the first batch of people would be sort of the ones that were fooled. Watu wako na njaa. So at the very least, I'm sure they want cash money that you give them, and they'll go literally to a shop to buy unga. But
The
if you're
question
telling
is,
me I'm being paid in Bitcoin, money that doesn't make sense in the real world, where the currency we are talking about is shillings and notes that the legal tender.
the
But
question is this. Um,
how can somebody trade with Bitcoin? I mean, I'm sure there are some vendors that accept that, but it's not yet widely accepted as a legal tender in many sort of outlets where somebody can go in and buy literally something. So I don't understand. I'm sure they must have been paid for it to
but
attract this amount of
but
people.
then again, look at the bigger picture.
Hmm.
Are we not in a system that has made people so desperate that they are ready to sell their data for a paltry
I agree. Yeah.
$70 or so?
You could even take it down to $10 or even 500, and it will attract lines as such, because people are literally as you say, they are desperate. To them, all that matters is that an
And
extra coin.
that really tells us the bigger picture is
Yeah,
the poverty in this country. Is it systematic? I tend to think it's somehow systematic.
it
I tend
is.
to think there's
It
somebody
is.
somewhere playing with some buttons or some dials to actually make us poor.
I
And you
mean,
really have to, if you have to break,
we
you really need to break outside the matrix to see
mm,
that this is systematic. If you look at
yeah,
the things you've discussed here, and you want to think, hapana, hii ni makusudi bwana.
ni
Hii
maksudi. I
ni
mean,
makusudi.
how can you have
This,
24 hours power blackout and it doesn't attract a comment or a word of two from, as you say, the powers that be?
hmm,
So it definitely shows, and as you say, we might call it incompetence, but it's not a question of lack of skill.
it's
It's
attitude, I
actually,
think.
I think the word should be negligence,
Yes.
and negligence that is deliberate. So as you say, how do you plunge an entire country in darkness? And I'm sure those that do that, they probably in their own homes, they have their own power
Power
backup generator. I
generators
mean,
and whatnot.
just look at a country like Nigeria. Despite the wealth that it has, people run on generators. South Africa once was a famed first world country in Africa. Uh,
Load shedding.
they have to live with this level of load shedding. What does it lack? It lacks nothing. It has everything. that should, I mean, these problems that we are dealing with, and again, that's why I'm saying we are dealing with 18th century problems, while we're in the 21st century. I mean, why are we talking about power at this day and age? That's power, road infrastructure, rail infrastructure. These are things that we shouldn't even be discussing. We should now be talking about other problems and other issues.
Efficiency. We now talk about improving efficiency improvement. But
Exactly.
if
I mean,
there's practically nothing to improve on, it becomes a bit of a situation. Things like when you look at stuff like cooking gas, we are importing cooking gas, yet we have mounds of garbage in Dandora. What the fuck's going
exactly.
on, man? Huh. Why are we sitting on resources? And it makes that's what makes me think that this is intentional. It
Hmm.
has to be intentional because as I and then they would want you. Remember that thing that the former first lady did. That thing
Hmm.
of zero cost for maternity.
Yes.
Someone doesn't want you to be rich, but they want you to give birth.
Hmm.
I think there's something at play. I think you are creating a situation whereby you want to deal with a population that is easy to maneuver.
Let me even show you another one that I saw on my Twitter feed. I think it was from Agent 44
Okay.
talking about free vasectomy. And the commentary put on it was actually quite apt.
Okay.
He said, yeah, can you see my screen?
It's like it's loading. Okay. I've seen it. I'm seeing it.
So when a product or service is free, know you're the product.
You are the product.
It's the same
If you
thing
do
with
not know,
the
if
WorldCoin.
hmm,
They are giving you a paltry $70 or whatever amount it was. But
and you don't know how much
on the
that data is
yeah.
going to rake in for those people.
Oh man, that's
Hmm.
that's that's nothing to them.
Hmm. So free. Why do you want to do vasectomy? Do
This
you
is
mean that I cannot? My dick control is so low, so you have to castrate me or something like that?
exactly. We've become like dogs. You have to be neutered.
You have to be neutered.
I mean, and what's the impact? I mean, it might seem like just on the face of it is so that you're not producing sperm, but what does the effect of it? I mean, we know that this some of these procedures are emasculating men.
Yes.
Actually, somebody was actually there's a very interesting video I came across that there were scientists that were doing experiments.
Hmm.
I think on some animals, or was it some plants? No, it was on animals where they could literally change the sex. I think it was frogs. They could change the sex of an animal based off sort of what they were feeding them. So they're telling you, oh, okay, you come in here, if you want to be dick driven as whatever and have no responsibility of raising a child, come, we'll cut off your nuts, and you can continue with your
Bang away.
with your with your dick business. Uh, so, but what does that do? It there might be, and I would bet there's some level of emasculation that is happening.
And is there some
Probably
implant
your
they
test.
are doing on you or something? Because I
You
don't know
never
about
know.
that.
You never know. So you're getting emasculated, probably your testosterone. And we now have reports that testosterone levels have gone lower.
Whoa.
And partly some of this, partly it could be some of the foods that we are ingesting, some of those GMOs and processed foods that we all have in our houses and we enjoy. Uh,
You see, this
this,
thing
this,
of
these are the implications: increase in cancer.
if I may ask, this free vasectomy, who pays for the cost?
Mhm. Who is pushing this agenda? Yeah, who is pushing for this?
Who's paying for the cost? Because
Because
you went
there
ahead,
is
they
a
went
cost.
ahead and they removed the fuel subsidy that is very important.
Yeah.
And who is paying for this thing?
Yeah. Because you can bet the doctor is definitely getting paid for his
Mm,
time
mm.
in conducting that surgical procedure on the people who are so somebody's paying. It's the same like even the COVID vaccines that people are getting. They're all free, but at the back end, those pharmaceutical companies were getting paid.
This is completely
I mean,
as
and you
this
can
this
clearly see
system
it based on their revenue numbers. You know, most
and
of
this.
these big pharma were actually
Mm.
their their profit numbers are going down. They're actually running on losses. But just that period of COVID, man, they wrecked in quite a bit.
My,
So
my my
nothing
my
is
headache
there's
is
no free
this
lunch.
free vasectomy thing.
Mhm.
So it's like it's literally saying these people have gone nuts. They are chopping out your nuts.
Yes, that you've got no dick control.
So you see, the strength of a country is based on the quality of the population. That
Mhm.
is why a country like Japan, which got nuked, were able to build themselves from where they are because of the quality of the population. So
Mhm.
rather than empower people, and you can say, guys, let's tone down on being dick driven, you actually take, if I may put it in a blunt way, you actually saw off their dicks or you saw off their balls. It's like replacing live ammo with blanks. What is the use
Mhm.
of that weapon if it is firing blanks now? The only use of a blank weapon is starting off a race. Ile ya
Mhm.
mashindano, they fire in the air. Why would you walk around with blanks are used in firing in a race or in movies, acting movie for acting purposes.
Mhm.
Otherwise, a gun with the blanks is practically useless.
Mm.
Hmm. But a man with dick control, that's an alpha. And you have
No
the
doubt.
capacity to say, I'm not interested in this. This is just uh, blasting away my energy for nothing.
Mm.
So this free vasectomy, now this is the stuff that scares me a lot.
Mm. Mm.
This is the stuff that really, when was it? If I can see the date.
It's today. I think he sent it today. So let me check on
Yeah. Oh, 13th September. It is
Yahoo.
slated for 13th September.
Madare North will be
14.
14th, Makadara will be on the 15th, and I'm sure they'll run this campaign for a while. So
No,
now they're telling people, okay, call this number to book your appointment, and these are the locations and the dates. So Marie stops. I mean, it's got our countrywide coverage. So now it's just a matter of rolling
these
it out.
people
Maybe
of
this,
abortions, you mean?
these are the same people of abortions. They are the same with Planned Parenthood.
You see, at the end of the day, it all begins with the man saying, listen, my financial kingdom, I'm either in the midst of building it, it has not gone a lot, or I don't even have a financial kingdom, I have no business reproducing. Close as that. But if you go around there and uh, snipping off parts of yourself, what is the meaning of that? That's
I mean,
just
that's central.
fucking.
That's very central to a
It
man's.
seems very matrix like. I cannot really put a finger to
No,
what
it's
they are
true.
trying to
It is.
do, but it is really,
Who
really.
is, as you say, who is paying for that? Because there's no free land. Marie Stops has been paid. It is free to you, but on the back end, for
Mm,
you to book the doctor,
mm.
provision of the tools that you will use, the bed and all that. Not just the doctor. I mean, I'm sure there are supporting crew there of nurses and
Plus
staff there
whatever
that
medication you need to take,
any
whatever.
medication that you'll be given, all that has been paid for. That Marie Stops, if you look at its P&L, it's making a profit. How do you make a profit if you were providing a service for free?
What if
Who
we
paid
said
you?
let let
So
us let us dedicate these resources into boosting not just our agriculture but our agro processing systems? Rather that we no longer have farms, but we have factories in farms. The entire Kitale, we have like all these Mombasa maize millers need put their factories there. And all farmers in Kitale, we join up their land so that the farming becomes a limited company
Mhm.
in partnership with a series of millers.
Mhm.
So that we don't ban a lot of diesel driving vehicles from Kitale to Mombasa and put everything there, centralize everything so that we have the farming corporations by the farmers, the storage silos, and the factories in one giant compound, whereby whatever comes out is just maize flour. What is preventing them from doing that? It will, in fact, will solve so many things. All these farmers with small farms, make them form a company, join them together, one huge compound, put the factories there, put the silos there. Why should you have a factory in Mombasa, then whoever is growing the raw material is in Kitale or Busia or whatnot? We can
There's
have
a
one
lot that can
huge
be done.
industrial zone in Kitale. In fact, there should be no joblessness in Kitale.
No,
If
they
you have
shouldn't.
like 10
In fact, none.
factories of 10 factories, silos, maize farmers, maize plantations, one compound.
Yeah.
Whatever comes
It-
out of there is just maize flour,
That should
wheat
be a
flour.
thriving
Yeah.
community.
If you look at the wheat growing areas, the Rift Valley, that's where the factory should be.
Yeah.
One huge giant plantation that is made of many small plantations joined together. I saw
I
in
mean,
Australia,
mhm.
that was a cane plantation. It's so huge. They have a railway line inside there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
The
think
railway
of
line.
Nakuru. What
Mm,
does Nakuru basically is? Because it's in the breadbasket of Kenya.
mm,
That town grew because of agriculture activity
yes.
in and around
Mm,
it. The
mm,
If you go to the industry, and I remember this because we were kids and we would do those trips
mm,
to those industrial parks. I
mm.
mean, you'd go to the maize millers, you go to the wheat, and you'd see how they would process. Now, most of those industries are now dead because we are now importing the wheat and all this from Egypt or wherever.
Even Ukraine,
Yeah,
who's being at war,
exactly.
is telling us, "Yani hauna aibu." Yani is like your neighbor is fighting and you are knocking go nisaidie chumvi. This guy is at war. You can't even sort yourself out. Somebody anakungutana vita huku and he still has the capacity to sell something to you. What does it tell you about yourself?
Mm. And the funny thing is, most of those places now, you know what they have become? They have become churches. Those
Yes,
warehouses, they have become
yes.
churches.
I
So,
think these
so now,
prayers
even
should
look at the
go to.
correlation of increase in churches and where the community is. It's. I think then people used to have higher standards of living. You know, these were thriving communities. But now
Those prayers are
it
going
seems
to
like
God's spam folder.
it seems like bringing the churches and then the community plummets in
Hiyo
almost
mao,
every metric that you may want to put on.
hiyo maombi inaenda kwa spam folder because God will tell
And
you
thinking,
you uprooted the factory, then you put a church.
exactly, you put a church.
Are you
You remember
crazy?
that? Where is that image of a factory that was turned into church, and there are people now praying for jobs? So look at the irony of that. How can you be praying for jobs and literally right
You
at your
destroyed
disposal is you have
your
the
source
tools
of
to now
income.
generate jobs and livelihoods. Man, it's a
I'm
sad
glad
state of affairs that we are in.
the strong man at your location, he put
Mm,
some he shut down so many churches because he said these are
mm.
just commercial entities preying
Yeah,
on gullible characters. eh.
yeah.
You are told
And
send 310 shillings.
and,
Another one
mm.
is saying lift up your phone and say Robo Shakala what, and an M-Pesa will come to your phone. How?
Talking gibberish, and
Huh.
that's what is termed as speaking in tongues. How do they? And they all speak. I mean, when you hear sort of how those words being enunciated, they all sounding the same. So you are
The same,
quoting another person,
it's
and you
called
don't
the
know
Robo
what you're
Shakala.
talking about.
I've heard of Robo Shakala since on campus. At least they should say Basi Nusu Shakala or something or whatever.
Exactly.
Then I used to have
Uh,
in campus, we used to have somebody in our hostel used to be across our room. He's saying he's rehearsing talking in tongues.
yes,
Somehow I
rehearsing.
thought, with my little knowledge of the Bible, I thought talking in tongues it occurs when the Holy Spirit comes over you.
And
You are
and
practicing.
and the worst thing about it is the people doing some of these things,
Mm.
they are fairly, you know
They are not crazy.
productive members. They're not crazy. They are productive members of society. This
Mm.
could be engineers, doctors, but at that point they suspend
On on
their
Sunday,
minds.
on Sunday ni siku ya vitimbi sasa. And
Kabisa.
as a
And yeah, it's,
Christian,
it's been getting crazier by the day when you see some of those videos being circulated. Somebody throws. I saw one he was throwing like
throwing
some
an
orange.
orange, and then the guy started performing some punitics there, and I was like, man, this is somebody's dad. Now, you see,
Ah,
as as a Christian brought up in Christianity, these people have marketed the Christianity religion so poorly. Like, whenever I'm walking around Mtaani on Sunday, Nat River, I see people in suits and fancy clothes. I'm like, mnaenda kufanya vitimbi. Nendeni basi, mtuombe. Pray for us
tuombeni.
lost sheep. Pray for us the lost sheep who don't go to do the vitimbis there. In
Eh,
wonderful, colorful outfits and whatnot. And where you are passing there, somebody's going, there's a very huge uh, trench ya maji machafu and sewage. Huyu Mungu asiwapatie akili you petition somebody to
It's,
clean up
it's a
this
little
area.
thing. And that's why somebody actually once said, Japan is said to be one of the most cleanest countries in the world.
Yes. Mm.
And you remember that time when we were kids, what used to be called cleanliness
Mm.
is what? Next to
Next to
godliness.
godliness.
So
Mm.
if we were to use that same, quote, it would then mean that the Japanese are actually literally closer to God than
I actually
Africans.
saw a situation in
And they
Japan
don't do
where
all this
you,
rabashakara stuff.
you know that trench ya kupitisha maji ya mtaroni in
Hmm.
Japan.
Hmm.
I think it's a way of testing it.
Hmm.
There are fish inside there
Oh, they have cleaned it out
because
that fish can thrive in it.
I remember when I used to work in a wastewater processing system. Before you start testing and whatnot, you used to have what you call end of the line system, which was nothing more than a pond containing fish. So that when you are checking in, you don't go to the lab, check the pond first. If the fish in the pond are dead, don't even bother with the lab. Your system is fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
You used
yes,
to have
that's true. If
a,
there's
used
no
to have
life
a
in
pond.
it, you
And there's
guys
a
are.
system there. Then at the end, there's a very tiny pond, not very huge, tiny pond with those goldfish and whatnot. And there's somebody who will feed them and do what. So when you are checking in, the first place you check, are the fish alive?
Yes.
If the Once the fish are alive, you just do your parameter test because it's a
Mm,
system that is subject to audit. So you have your parameters. But if the fish are dead, don't even bother with the reporting and the parameters. Hii kitu ni mbaya bwana, watu wanakufa. Yeah. So I saw it in Japan. There's
yeah.
a trench by the road and fish are inside. So I was thinking, if you put it in Kenya, even before the fish die, those fish will be eaten. Hmm. Somebody will say, free food,
Exactly.
samaki imeibiwa.
Yeah,
And even if the fish are not
poor.
stolen, those fish will die. Because the usual picture of a trench in Nairobi is bottle tops, papers, sand, shoes, condoms, name it.
Our dick drivenness will
Big
always
driven
show at some point.
motherfuckers have done their stuff inside there. And you want to put a fish, that fish bwana hata usiweke hapa bwana. Si unajua hii ni chafu. So and then it always boils down to one thing. And if you have an opportunity to be somehow dominant in a particular area, set your own standards. Don't waste time with that. If you have, let's say you have an estate you have managed to
Actually,
land on some billions, you want to
it's that
launder some
model.
money, set up an estate that everything is just top of the line from waste
Yeah.
control, name it, do it your own way.
And I
Because if
mean,
you
I
are
think
going
you,
to,
you, you see a bit of an example of that. I mean, if you go to places like Nyayo Estate in Nairobi,
yes, yes,
uh, I used to enjoy even where I used to live. It was the same thing. It was a gated community with
yes,
all this number
mm,
of. It
mm,
was a huge complex.
yeah,
The good thing
I
actually
guess,
that I liked about it was, they I think they took almost the same model as Nyayo Estate.
mm,
You didn't feel you're in a vast space. It's not like the Nyayo. This one's on Bagathi Way. What do you call that place? Where
which
there are
one?
those, you know, Bagathi Road, where there's a lot of those flats. I don't know what's
I
called.
think you mean talk
That
about which
is,
at
it's
least.
sort of
Mm,
neighboring Kibera. But
mm,
the good thing with this complex, there are many apartment units. Mostly they go up to fourth floor. But the good
mm.
thing is, it was not like one open field with a lot of them. So they had little courts. So you get into the main gate, then go into your own court where you'd have like one or two of them. So then it even became easier to manage them because you even had, we used, every homeowner there would be part of the management unit, and you'll now start talking about, how do you do your garbage control, you
Mm.
know, like where we were actually was also supporting the commercial entity. So there were, like shops, and there would be a gym there. There used to be a gym that used to make a lot of noise. So we would always, on the WhatsApp group, we'll always be sending messages. Oh, this gym is causing a lot of noise. It literally had to be closed, but it came
What
back
was
now and it would
what is the
operate
noise
without.
coming from? Aerobics or what?
Yeah, yeah, when they're doing aerobics, and they would wake up early as 5 a.m. So you can imagine you're still in bed, and that noise. So now they started doing it without music. I mean, the whole idea was, these communities, they are well planned, uh, good security, uh, garbage control is there, and you can see, they are managing all the sort of common amenities that are there. There's a nice field there where there's a basketball court, a football court. Would always, we had a trainer who would always come in the morning and train us from there. You could do runs at 1 or 2 a.m. in the evening. That kind of a thing. It's like your little oasis in the madness of this big metropolis that is Nairobi. So um and I guess those are the models that, imagine now if you had probably a city run estate, if
Yes.
it was sort of to replicate that same management. And it's all about management. So if it's, of course, if you have got this complex with thousands of houses, how then do you manage it? Okay, break it down, make it smaller, have smaller courts, then now start having those management at that point, so that then it. But yeah, I mean, the problem now is so huge. It's daunting to look at. Where do you begin? Yeah, you
And then
begin with.
another what was also this is actually a symptom of a bigger problem, whereby the kind of investments we've had, we have created a situation whereby a lot of people are flocking the city to simply guess their way around.
Mhm,
Nasema mtu say naenda Nairobi nijaribu bahati yangu. That's
mhm,
why you find like hundreds of people selling mobile phones, repairing mobile phones, selling accessories. That is what has contributed to this problem. We are not doing a man. It is factories which should swallow the bulk of the nation. Factory and research facilities, not
yeah.
towns where people uh, gather. Oh, McDuke is here. Karibu sana, karibu.
Hey,
Yes. Nice to have you here.
you
Mhm.
guys, you should come on. We want to bring you guys on one time. You
Mm.
you you you, you you speak online, and
Yeah, it's
hey,
nice. It's
Maktub,
nice to speak to
welcome,
you.
welcome.
So,
Oh, you must have been the second guy who was watching the live there. I can see there are two people.
yeah.
So yeah, karibu sana. Makuduk now, we can speak to him in Swahili.
So as I was saying,
Yeah.
this very huge. It is the factories and research centers that should be absorbing the bulk of these people.
Mm.
But you find people are stuck in selling mobile phones, accessories, clothes, puny offices that you don't know what this office is all about. Just weird businesses there,
Pushing peppers, yeah.
repairing laptops and just trying to squeeze in. So we have a lot of people there, and you look at the net output from these people, man, it's just hand to mouth.
You
These
know,
are the people.
just
Yeah.
today I was catching up on I was reading the newspaper today. I buy that weekly thing from East
Mm,
African, and I'd
mm,
actually bought some earlier editions which I hadn't read. So I was like, I've been like 2 weeks back.
mm,
So I read in one of it that apparently Kenyan export of vehicles that are assembled
mm.
in Kenya, you've got the Scanias, you've got the Isuzus. Apparently, the exports in the region have grown by about 30 or 40%. Um, and they were even saying that they even have more capacity that is still not being utilized by these assembly factories.
Oh, the
All they want is now, if there's a policy now to support this, okay, one thing that
export
they
from
did is
Kenya or to Kenya.
exports from Kenya to the region, to places like Uganda, Tanzania, it has increased.
Which vehicles are these?
They sell mostly, it's mostly buses and trucks. So not sort
Because
of
last time I checked,
saloon
there's
or SUVs.
there's already Scania Tanzania.
Is
There's
it is it
Scania.
is it assembling cars there? They seem to be
No, they,
sourcing them from Kenya because that's from based on what I read on that article. They're being assembled in Kenya. Of course, is what is being consumed locally, but they're also producing for the region. So the key thing that I was reading out of that was,
oh yeah, 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 yeah. I get it. I get what you mean. You see, Scania used
mm,
to be in industrial area, Bunyala Road, I think.
yeah, yeah, that's
Then
on the
they moved
Enterprise
to
Road.
to Syokimau, and they opened a very huge
Ah,
center. So I
yes, I've
think
seen it.
they are,
I've seen it.
that's like a hub. Because I was
Mm,
getting surprised because then I remembered when you are on Mombasa Road, just past Syokimau heading to Nairobi, there's a very
yeah.
huge center there for Scania,
Mm,
Scania East Africa. It's called Scania East Africa. I think
mm,
they're referring to that hub
yeah. I
because
mean,
when
they
it
were
talk,
just they were
because if it
talking
is
about.
if it is
Mhm.
buses that are being exported, it should only be that Scania East Africa hub. When you are dealing with Isuzu MV, it's called FVR 34. It's a truck conversion. The only people who are buying that vehicle apart from Kenya are Ugandans. But if you go
Mm,
to Tanzania, they are top end consumers of Chinese buses.
okay. I
Ah,
mean, it's still a bulk of the vehicle purchases, be they, from your
okay, I get your point. I know
Sudan
it
and
is
all
that
through.
Scania center because it's really huge.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
huge.
and let me tell you the numbers they're talking about in one year.
Uh, uh,
In one year, they were talking of, I think they said now they are doing about over 191 units. So just imagine, it's still very small.
that should then
Now,
the bulk should be.
if you were to look at how much
Mm,
trucks and buses have been bought
mm.
for the Tanzania market for like the last,
For Tanzania markets, as if you're talking of Scania, they are very heavy on trucks. They like the
trucks or
Scania truck.
buses.
Yes, trucks only.
Mm,
Buses, there are very few companies in Tanzania running Scania. I actually know them. One is called Sauli,
mhm.
and another one is called Sauli and something Express, a very whitish vehicle. And those are AVA types, those kit buses. But for trucks, Tanzanians will die for the Scania. For
Yeah.
trucks, that is a yes. They like
And I
trucks.
mean, they did show
But
the
buses,
breakdown. Mhm.
buses will just hear Yutong, Zongtong, Sanlong. That is Tanzania. But
Mm,
trucks, yes, I'll give a
yeah.
yes. They are
Yeah.
really big on that. But then
I,
again,
mhm.
to your point, That increment, I would link it to that center in Mlolongo because it's massive. It's really, really huge.
And
The
there's,
only
as I said, they are still not
mm,
fully utilizing the capacity that they have. So if
mm,
there were some sort of good policies now to encourage buyers to buy locally assembled car as opposed to bringing in a second-hand car
mm,
from Japan or wherever, um, what they said, the one policy that has been good is the government increased the tax when you're importing a second,
a full bus,
a full
a full
bus,
second-hand
because
bus. Although I
yeah,
found
because
that
they want
policy to
to.
be that
Mm,
policy is a very strange one
mhm.
because no one buys second-hand buses.
Yeah, I think my buses, mostly
No
people
one.
buy new ones.
No, there's no company. The only organization that brought in second-hand buses was a company called Horizon, and they were not even an import because Horizon was existing in Turkey. So they
Mm,
just brought in some of their Turkish fleets in Kenya. But
yeah.
I am yet to hear of an organization that buys buses second-hand from abroad. So what is normally purchased second-hand is trucks, ex-UK.
That's
The
true.
Actros
That's
and the
true.
Scanias, those are purchased ex-UK. And still, Scania has their own what we call used trucks program.
Hmm.
It can be brought under the Scania,
It's
but
kind of like a refurbished.
but the individual import, that one is still there. So
I mean, these are some of
they can
the,
soften it by finances
yeah,
uh,
financing needs to come in big.
because a new truck, a zero mileage truck, will cost you 20 million. And an import, we are
Mm.
talking six, seven.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Is
Uh,
that low? I would have expected 10 and above. But yeah, it then makes sense to buy the second hand than
mm,
than the brand new. So yeah, I think, and actually, if you look at markets like South Africa, one of the reason why you'd find they predominantly buy new cars is because there's financing to back that up.
financing.
So
The
that
key
that
is
element
financing.
of you're producing, and then you're
Mm,
looking at how do you ensure that the consumer part of it can
mm,
sustain that pipeline, that you can still be able to produce like 100 new units every day, and they'll get into, across dealership to distribute
mm,
and all that.
mm.
So the financing element is what we've not done, and then now look at any tax
They
policies
do
that
they
can
do have
apply to
their
some.
Scania have a financing bit, but the people who have really scored on financing is Isuzu East Africa. They
Mm.
give you a bus at 95% financing.
Oh wow, yeah, that's really good. So you
Well,
just need to put
95,
the 5% down payment, and I
then
mean,
you pay.
it has to be uh, a system. Of course, it could be coming from the manufacturer, which is fine, but also
Yes, from the
banks.
factory.
That whole ecosystem needs to
Mm,
support it,
mm,
and
mm,
then of course people need to be paid sort of on a regular basis to sustain. I
mm,
mean, the reason why you have places like America keeping
mm.
that wheel running is, one, you've got people being paid like every week
Yes.
or bi-weekly, and all they have done is, if your salary is 10,000, why don't we break it down that you get your 2,000 instead of having you to wait for 30 days? What does that mean? So that means
It,
people
it, it is
are
it is
not
a bit of
are
a
not consuming as they should. Yeah,
it is a bit of a matrix move, but then again it will fire up the economy thoroughly. Imagine
I
you are
agree.
earning 100,000 net per month, and every week you have 20K.
Exactly. No, no,
The
yeah, I
clubs,
know.
the clubs in your area will be like, hey, because
Exactly.
people say end month in Nairobi is party time, but if you get
Exactly.
your 25,000 every Friday,
Can you imagine? So, and it
Friday
has
by 3 p.m. Ding, 25K.
imeingia, and it's
Ndio,
guaranteed, no failure. No, no, I
the
mean, the whole idea of sustaining that machine has to
mm,
be, money has to be circulating. Yes,
my
it's a
friend,
bit
the
smooth because you're now attached into debt. and all these other things. But there is also an
The
informed,
business, the general business
yeah,
environment. You don't have to say we are waiting for end of month for things to fail. No, you say on Friday supermarkets will be full, the clubs will be beaming, and then your what you call credit rating will fly through the roof because
exactly,
you are making major purchases every
every
week.
week, yeah.
Yeah, and you know there's something weird about money. When you receive that 25K, all of a sudden all these weird ideas start springing in your head. Oh, I need a new TV. Oh, this television. Oh, this watch I'm wearing. Some say,
Consumerism, bro.
this
Consumerism
watch
at its best.
is it's a bit this watch. I need something. My my headphones.
Get the next
they're,
generation.
I need. There's a new one. So to some people it may have some issues. Okay, for those of us who can see the matrix, we may see. But when you look at the bigger picture, the business communities around that area, imagine the bars in that area. And when a bar is selling more, the factory that's producing the beer is. I'm sure Sharif Mustafa is puking right now. But Pole bro, Kidogo, we are just talking on the issues. Then we look at the people who are the Naivasha fanatics. 25K, Chantel na Sheri, pap, Naivasha, fuel for the
Lazima,
vehicle. Yeah,
lazima.
fuel for the vehicle.
Yeah,
Now the people in Naivasha, instead of waiting for the end of the month, every weekend Wazito ameingia. And your
exactly.
credit rating goes up. You get a message from your credit card dealer. Your credit quantity has gone from 70,000 to 150,000. Well, let the party begin, man. Let's do this thing. It's a bit of a matrix move, but it's good when money circulates. Let's just watch and reap the benefits. It's a good move.
Cool, man. I think we've
Mm.
had quite a. I didn't expect it to go this long. I think I was
One,
thinking it would close even 30 minutes earlier, but we've even
we've done
done.
it.
We've done an
No,
hour
no
and a half
rehearsals, no
uninterrupted.
nothing. Just firing away. Mm.
Man, that
Mm.
was a good one, bro. That was a
Mm.
good one. So yeah,
So
I think we'll now say goodbye and be back next week.
shout out to our resident lone wolf audience,
Sharif
Sharif
Mustafa.
Mustafa, and our new Mr. the South African hero, Mr. Mark Duke, with his fabulous projects. He's doing a lot of good furniture
Oh
stuff.
yeah, I saw that. Hey,
Yeah,
kudos, Mark,
so
on that. Yeah, I saw some
good
of the
one.
stuff he's now doing. Yeah, and I
Mm,
guess let's talk about that because that's the other thing in terms of how do we,
mm,
part of being the matrix
mm.
is always been getting funneled into this abstract virtual world, and we
Yes.
don't get to use our
Mm.
hands.
Tools.
We've
Now,
forgotten a world which is, and I guess that's why there's also probably increased in these
mm,
things they are calling mental health. So anyway,
mm.
let's yeah. So thanks a lot, Mark Duke, Sharif Mustafa. I think there's even a third person. I don't know who that is. Whoever
There's
you
a third
are.
person.
Uh, I, at some point, it shows we had three viewers
Okay.
online.
Okay.
Loot family looks like today he got caught up wherever he is. I hope he's
Okay.
not he's not with a Chantal somewhere.
Chantel.
Chantel.
Mm, mm,
Or even if he is, enjoy yourself, brother.
mm.
Just make sure you don't get stuck.
Don't get puny.
You don't
Mm,
get puny.
mm. Anyway,
Uh,
guys, it's been a good one. And until next Saturday, it's adios.
See ya.